What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Manji TV. Today we have the super rad stock, going to be much cooler after today, M2 base. This is the N55 2017 model, and she is in quite good shape. Black is always beautiful, and she's going to be getting some cool mods today. Mainly the BC coilovers that we're going to be installing in this video, showing you how to install them, walking you through the process, and talking about the comparison of the stock suspension versus the BC Racing coil suspension. So this is a entry-level suspension for this car. They're quite good. They're really good if you're just looking for stance, but when it comes to terms of like tracking and whatnot, I don't know that they meet the requirement or the standard for me myself, but they're a great all-around coilover for those people kind of using it autocross, partial weekend, track car, and street car use. All right, so first things first, I think we should take it for a quick test drive. This car's got 79,000 miles on it, almost 80,000 miles. So I imagine these struts are starting to feel a little bit tired. Just pulling out onto the road. She feels nice, alignment feels nice and straight, which is good. A little slight pull maybe. Let's see, let's hit these bumps. Oh yeah, she's kind of soft and mushy. Not too bad still, being that it is an M2. They're still generally, even with higher mileage, they still drive fairly nice. But we'll go down the street here, hit a couple dips, see how she feels. Compared to the competition, the base model M2s always do feel a little bit soft to me. Little clunk coming from the drivetrain there. Maybe he needs some motor mounts and tram mounts. We'll check that out. There's a good little dip here, which is a good test of the suspension. Hitting it at 40 miles an hour. Sorry guys, let me put the seatbelt on. The BC Racing coilovers are generally on the stiffer side. These BC Racing coilovers should definitely, you know, hit the mark there. They are quite an affordable coilover, coming in at about 1,200 bucks. You can reach out to us if you'd like a set. We are a supplier for them, and can get you a set at a slightly discounted rate, so keep that in mind. But let's get this thing in the shop. Let's get these stock struts and shocks out of the way and get the BC Racing coilover components installed. So let's go ahead, get this bad boy up in the air, get the wheels off, get the suspension off, and get these BC coilovers in. All right guys, so I wanted to give you a quick up close look at the components here that come in the box. So obviously you get some instructions and installation notes and stuff about the warranty and just the product in general. But we'll start here with the rear components. Obviously you've got some shocks here, both on the left and right. And in the middle, we have our springs with our adjuster plates. These adjuster plates consist of a little plastic, basically guide or slider almost, insulator, whatever you want to call that, the adjuster ring. And then this goes up towards the chassis, which they supply a little thin rubber isolator to keep the vibration and noise from transferring through to the chassis, as well as a thicker one for the bottom side, which goes into the lower control arm. You will have to switch over your top mounts from your existing shocks to the new BC coilover. You can see here is where you adjust from on the rear shock, as well as it's also ride height adjustable. You do need to essentially match this to the height of the spring, not necessarily in the sense that this is the same length, but as far as travel goes. So you want to make sure to not be overextending the shock when the car is in full droop. So setting the shock so that it's just long enough for the car with full droop and the spring installed at the ride height of your choosing. And then that should give you full stroke to bump on the shock, and also not be too long to where the shock is riding too far up in the travel and bottoming out prematurely. With the fronts, you don't have as much thought process as far as that goes, but you do want to make sure a good starting point is to start with the coilovers being equal left to right. That'll give you a good starting point. Sometimes, especially if you're corner balancing the car, these will be slightly different from side to side, but generally for a street car, we like to set things about the same and then adjust from there if the car, for whatever reason, isn't sitting flat. So here's a better look at the fronts. You've got the N-link mounting point, which will go in this hole. You've got your adjuster ring here for your ride height, and then the adjuster rings for the preload. The shock does come with an isolator already on it. And like I said previously, there's a camber adjustment here at the top, as well as your rebound or settings adjuster here at the top. There's a provision for the factory brace to basically tie into these as well. So something to note there. Overall, these are pretty high quality and definitely a good bang for your buck. So anyways, enough about the coilovers. Let's go ahead and get them in the car and see how they feel. I did want to give you guys one quick look at the stock ride height. So roughly there's about a 2-finger gap in between the fender and the top of the tire. We're going to be trying to get this edge down to basically this line here on the tire. Give it about a 2-inch drop or so. Let's get it in the air, get the wheels off, and get these coilovers on. All right guys, we've gone ahead and pulled these shocks out already. They're just a little E12 bolt. There's 3 of them in the top hat. We've gone ahead and hit those first, and then that allowed us to hit the lower one without even having any pre-tension on it. Sometimes if you hit it with the thing still attached at the top, if your shocks are in good shape, they'll put too much pressure down on the bolt and you can't slip it out. In this case, I was able to just slip it out just fine. Next is we're gonna mark these alignment cams left and right. Once we get the springs out, we can go ahead and fit our new BC springs and then fit our new BC shocks. So let's go ahead and get her out. All right guys, you can see we've already got the spring out here on the passenger side. We're about to pull the spring out on the driver's side. We've gone ahead and get our level sensor. We're gonna let this thing down and then pull the control arm down. All right guys, a couple things to note here. This is the little cap and seal that goes on top of the shock here. You have to remove that so that you can get to the nut that holds the shock shaft to this guy here. There's also a factory bushing, which will probably be deteriorated. So we're gonna go ahead and get that swapped over to our new shock. But real quick, I also wanted to mention something about the BC spring setup and the lower pocket bushing. So this little bushing has like a groove and a little lip here. And if you look into the control arm, so you guys can see that, there's actually a corresponding lip and groove, and that will go facing the ground with this section facing up. So we'll go ahead and put that in here, and you can kind of feel when it locks into place, because if you twist it, it'll just straight stop when it hits the right spot. So we've gone ahead and put that in. We're gonna also take our spring stack with our little plastic isolator on the bottom and our rubber isolator here on the top, facing up, and throw that whole thing in here. And then we'll push this control arm up and then throw our shock in. So that's that. We'll also be showing you tightening this bad boy down to our new shock over here, which it really is easy. It just slides right on and bolts on like that, essentially. So let's go ahead, get this thing in the car and torqued. All right guys, the BC Racing coilovers are in. Everything has been tightened. The shock bolt here is 100 Newton meters plus 90. The outer pinch bolt is 175 Newton meters, and these upper bolts are 22 or 25 Newton meters. So everything's been torqued. One thing to note is you do want this adjuster like this. If you put it where the hard soft is facing the other way, I feel it makes it a little bit harder to adjust it. But nonetheless, it really kind of doesn't matter. Either way, you can still get it done. Just something to note. Make sure your boots too are sitting all the way down so that they don't get caught up and damaged. But we're gonna go ahead and put the level sensor back on right here as the last thing. And then we'll sit the car down after doing the front set and check the ride height and make sure it's something that we actually like. All right guys, we take a 10mm socket, just trim these to the left a quarter turn. There's a little pinch here, pull this up. Do that to both sides so you can flip this out of the way and get to all the bolts here on the top of the strut. Do the same thing here on the other side. This one does actually have a little extra pop clip here that you gotta pop and flip it out of the way. So we'll do that real quick. If you wanna handle that, Braden. So all of these lines just basically pull out of the way, super easy. This one's got a little clip here you gotta wiggle out with some pliers or a screwdriver. Sometimes you can fish right through the back. And the brake line will come out of the way. On the lower one here, you gotta pull that as well, and sometimes it helps to pull the one on the frame side here. Just to give it a little bit more slack. You can also open the door if you need, but generally that's enough. So we're gonna go ahead and hit the sway bar end link now. I found that snips are kind of like the perfect tool, as they grab this little clip very nice, and then you can kind of just wiggle her up. One more look here, no more pinch bolts in the way here. Bracket can just come out completely. Set that on the ground. We will go ahead and move on to the top side, but as you can see here, everything is disconnected. So let's go ahead, pop this Torx bolt here and the 5 surrounding bolts, and get the strut out of the way. A couple things to note here. The coilover is labeled R for the right hand side, and you want to make sure that this mounting point for the strut brace is in the correct location. Your camber adjustment will also be going perpendicular to the car, so that's something to note. There's also a pin on the lower shock body that does center and align itself here with the split in the knuckles, so another thing to notate there. We're gonna go ahead and drop this thing into place, making sure to line up the pin. The other thing we will do is it's kind of easier to throw your pinch bolt in now, so we'll probably throw our pinch bolt in and the bracket on now and give that a little snug. These pinch bolts also are one-time use, so we're going to be replacing that pinch bolt. Let's go ahead and do that. So the car is maxed out. Braden, can you bring it down on? Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to bring the car down.
I'll bring it down, yeah. So I'll put it down.
So now we'll be careful to, there's a paper seal in there, little isolator seal, so you want to be sure not to damage that. Ours is a little bit damaged already as is, so trying not to cause any more damage. There it is, guys. We'll go ahead and throw the supplied hardware on. Make sure to move any debris out of the way. All right, guys. One installed BC coilover. We'll put our bolts in here for the strut brace. We'll torque all these down. I believe the torque on these is 22 or like 18 foot-pounds. I'll double check that now here in a second. The pinch bolt is also 55 Newton meters plus 60 degrees, so let's go ahead and get that done. All right, guys, so a quick look at the difference in length here from the OEM units and the supplied BC coil end links here. A couple things to note. Obviously, it's shorter, but the other reason why they supply these is the fact that now it uses a flat style mount, where the upper mount on the factory uses this washer style with this tapered style. So just something else to note here. Another reason why these really wouldn't work. So let's get this last one on the car. We've already got the passenger side on the car. We'll show you the driver one once we have it installed. All right, guys, quick look at everything here. The end links installed. All of the cables have been clipped in. Brake lines have been clipped in. Everything's torqued and marked, routed exactly as it should be. Looking beautiful. So we're gonna go ahead and bring this car down. One other thing to note, I don't know if I said it before, but is to put your level sensors back on. I think I did forget to mention to remove your front level sensor, but that has also been reinstalled. Gave the car a good once over. He does need some brakes, but everything else on the car looks to be in pretty good shape for being 80,000 miles. Little crack here starting to form on the diff, but that's standard F80 stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary. Overall, this car is like 100% bone stock. And yeah, so we're gonna be going ahead, bringing this thing down, getting a look at the final ride height. I've already gone ahead and put the wheels on and the engine cover, or like, you know, cowling covers below the windshield. So enough said about it. Let's bring it down. Let's check out this ride height and let's take it for a ride. All right guys, one quick last look at the stock struts. Rear coil springs and rear shocks all boxed up for the customer. We're gonna throw it in the back of the car and give this to him so he can keep it safe in case he ever wants to go back to stock. But anyways, everything's looking beautiful. The BC coils have been adjusted all the way down. Everything's been torqued and marked. Same in the front. And all right guys, we're in the car now after installing the BC coils. We did end up loosening the clickers to the middle click. I believe it's 32 clicks, so we're at click 16 from either hard or full soft. We're not, the car was, we did give the car back to the customers for a bit, and we just brought it in for an oil change, which I'm currently warming it up to be able to check the engine oil level, but it feels much better, which is good. The car just feels much more planted and not as bouncy, which is awesome. So up here there's a pretty good bump in the road. See how it takes this? It's like a pothole almost. Yeah, soaked it up pretty good. It was pretty harsh before. There's a decent little pothole here, which we will, oh yeah, not too bad actually. Not too bad. As you guys can see now, she's doing the oil level. Everything is great. Anyways, she's ready to go. If you like this video, be sure to check out the next one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe and like the video. It helps a lot. Thanks, and see you in the next one.